Less stress, more time, more money. Welcome to the Cash Flow Contractor, short with Martin Holland.
Good morning, Cash Flow Contractors. This is Martin, and welcome to this short episode. You just have me today because Khalil is coaching a high school soccer team, Norman North High School, in Alabama, is it? He's in Alabama, so he's got a side gig going. And mentioning Norman North makes me think of something last night. We have a basketball team in Oklahoma City, the Thunder, and a guy named Lindy Waters plays for that, and came to town last night, the Atlanta Hawks with Trae Young. I think everybody's heard of Trae Young. They were high school teammates at Norman North High School, and between the two of them, I think it was 76 points they scored last night. I mean, how remarkable is that? Norman North is about 4 miles from where we sit, and I'm looking across at two Norman North grads, right? Yeah, so pretty cool. Anyway, I thought that was pretty unusual. In today's short, I want to do something we hadn't done before, and that's to supplement a previous episode number 112. We had Mike Andes on, maybe posted 2 or 3 weeks ago. Mike Andes is a really remarkable young man. I think the episode's titled, do you remember the title? Marketing, Mowing Lawns, and Franchising. And it's a great episode. He's a remarkable guy, and he does talk about this subject, but I want to emphasize it. And I want to name this episode Paying for Performance, okay? Because I want people to pay attention to it and give consideration to it. So it's paying for performance is something that every contractor I've ever talked to, matter of fact, almost every business, it's something they want to do. And when you think about it, if you have hourly employees, why is it that you pay for an hour of time? We don't care about the hours. We want the job done, and we want it done profitably. The other thing is frequently people make money based on seniority. In other words, the people who are here the longest get the biggest raises or make the most money. That also doesn't make sense. The people who should make the most money are the people who make you the most money. And so paying by the hour and paying for seniority are a couple of antiquated concepts that are still around, primarily because people haven't thought of a better way to do it. Mike Andes has, and he calls it pay for performance. Which camera am I on? This one? And he wrote a book. This is it. I recommend people read it. P4P, and the P, and then the number 4 and P. And what he talks about is how to get away from paying just for hours. When you start thinking about it, hours do not align. Paying by hour do not align with what you want as a business owner. It's being a little cynical, but it's also true. An employee wants to make more money. It's to their advantage to drag a job out, which is exactly not what you want. You want to get the job done profitably so you can go off and do another job profitably. Paying for seniority is exactly what you don't want. If a new person comes on and they're just kicking tail, and somebody who's been there for 20 years is just cruising, why is it that you pay the cruiser more than the new person, right? So how do you align that? And Mike Andes has come up with a really good system, which I'll describe a little bit, but you can get more in depth from some other sources, including the book and then a website that I'll give you on it. But one of the main precepts on working with employees is that we as the owners or the boss plan everything, try to get everything lined out where we make this money and do it in this amount of time and sell this amount of product. But it's our guys, it's our people in the field who actually execute or don't execute. And people who pay labor, who have labor is a significant part of what they bid, which is most of our listeners. Labor is the biggest variable. It's a huge expense and it's out of your control. You can influence it, but it's out of your control. How do we correct that we're paying for something that we don't really want, which is time, and we're vesting control in the people who aren't us and aren't necessarily attuned to the plan. They don't necessarily even know what the plan was. I think it's really common, and maybe to you, Mr. or Mrs. Listener, how much do your people know how many hours you bid in a job? Do they know what the time schedule is to get it done? Clearly, I mean, not hurry up, but clearly. So, the incentive of paying for performance to the employee is that they can make more. One of the bad things about an hourly job is the only way to increase is to pester you all the time for a raise or to drag something out and earn overtime so you get time and a half. What if people could make more because they did better? They're trapped by so many hours per week. They're only 40 hours a week, especially if you limit overtime. But let's say there's 60 hours a week or 20 of them are overtime, but they're really only so many hours a week. And it's really hard for them to find a way to make more money. It manifests itself in things like coffee breaks, talking on your cell phone at the job, because the hours are going on even though you're talking on your cell phone. Trips to the supply house, they don't bring things with them because they're not incentivized to make sure that they have everything, because it pays the same driving to the supply house as it does if you left the shop, right? So how would you monitor that? How would you control that? And the answer is it's pretty hard to do that from the office, right? So the real key to that is to have people in control that themselves. They're the ones who do it. So have people control that themselves. And that's to pay for performance. I just stuttered, didn't I? Said we didn't need a pop screen, I double popped. But to find a way to get them to self-monitor because it's in their own interest. And that's what Mike Andy's systems does. Now, just briefly, what he does is he calculates a base wage that people will not get less than. And he also calculates a bonus wage. And I think his target is that the employees will get 33% of the bid labor. They don't get any part of the materials that you sell, but they get 33%. It can be a target. It could be half the labor. It could be 25%. But that they have a chance to get more than their base pay. So base pay is something it will not go below. So they know that they will get that. And every week or every 2 weeks when you pay them, they either get the base wage or the pay for performance wage, whichever is higher. Okay. So I've been mentioning this to contractors I work with, and I had one in here the other day, and he said, well, I don't want to do that. He said, if I'm paying him more, I'm going to make less. Now, this guy's not a greedy guy, but he's trying to pay the bills and everything. But the really clear thing to understand is that if you pay people and they work efficiently and they work well and they don't have go backs, you will get more jobs done. And the way I explain it, if you're paying a third, 66% times 2 is worth more than 100% times 1. And that's what you're after. And the other benefits that come from this is you attract better workers who are incentivized to stay around longer because they can make more and more. They're treated as valued. They have a common interest in not talking on the cell phone or having their crew not talk on the cell phone because it's hurting their pay for performance, right? So when you talk about that, I don't think I've ever met a contractor or anybody in business who wouldn't love to do that. So you have aligned interest. You make more and they make more without, it's not by fiat. It's both acting on their own incentives. If you start thinking, wow, what are you talking about? I'm going to have to track all that. Well, yes, you are. And when you read the book, Mike Andes tells you how to do it. But I'm a spreadsheet lover and all this, and I'm reading the book and going, wow, that's a lot. But he's gone one step farther than that. He has software that does it for you, and it's available at the website P4P software.com. He has videos on there. You can go watch and see how it works. But basically what happens is that your employees track their time, clock in on an app on their phones, and clock out in an app on the phone. And then other things, attributes in the software, know whether or not that was just pay the minimum. In other words, they didn't get it done faster, or to pay for performance. And one of the really neat things about this is at the end of every day, any employee can look on there and see what their pay for that day was. They either got base pay or they got bonus pay. And it accumulates over a week. But the benefit of that is immediate reward. Okay. They can immediately see the effects of what they did. If you pay people profit, we're going to share the profit at the end of the year. that is a non-starter as an incentive. It just is. First of all, a lot of people really don't understand what profit is. And if you buy a new truck and show up at the office, even though it was out of your personal funds, they think, wow, there's our profit, right? And it happens so far in the distance that it's not immediate reinforcement. So you can pay bonuses, and I think Mike Andes does at the year-end bonuses. But if you don't have some way of measuring it as you go along, somebody gets a check and they go, oh, that's cool, I got a check. They don't even know what it was for, and they don't know what they did to contribute to getting that check, right? So it's if you've ever thought about trying to control is an illusion, but to influence the productivity of your people, it's worth checking this out. Hourly is not it. Paying on seniority is not it. So it's hard to do without the software, but I think it is relatively easy with the software. I think he has a charge, I don't even want to say, but it's like $100 a month it's something like that. It's like if you run a Jobber or somebody like that, it's a paper prescription. But if your productivity goes up, you weed out the people who are always getting paid on the base pay because they're not productive, and you let your foreman or your peers on the job influence their behavior because it affects their pay, I think you'll find it really be worth looking into. So it's P4P, Pay for Performance, number 4P software is where you can watch some of Mike Andes' videos. But I really encourage you to do it. This is an important change. Matter of fact, Mike Andes says what he'd like to see is that in the future, prospective employees who come to interview ask whether or not you're a P4P employer. And if you're not, they go somewhere else, right? So anyway, check it out. It's worth talking about. Call me or call Mike Andes. His contact information is in the episode 112. So we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to The Cashflow Contractor. Check out our website in the show notes or visit thecashflowcontractor.com.